Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the In Between podcast. I'm Breana, and today I am sitting all alone. Aaliyah is at her dad. So if Lee, you're listening to this, I'm sitting in the room. It doesn't feel right because I should be giggling with you, and I haven't had that. So I'm ready for you to be back. I'm ready for us to get on a schedule. Lee is gonna get back in Saturday, maybe even Friday. We'll just go ahead and we'll get our next episode recorded it in. I'm really wanting to get someone on this podcast, and his name is Duncan Mitchell. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's also Father's Day. We are doing audio only today because, believe it or not, this might only be episode 2, but I don't sit down, I don't stop thinking, and we have nice, pretty swivel chairs now. No more bean bags. Shout out UPS. Just doing audio only right now until I have this figured out because currently my co-host is a pile of laundry that I need to put away. Today we're going to talk about the power of perspective. I think that the power of perspective holds a lot over you. I think that a lot of people don't think about it as much as I do, which is probably a good thing because I feel like half the time I drive myself insane. So I think that, when you sit down, you're having a bad day, or just something isn't going right, and you automatically just get into a really bad mood. Rather, you have 3 hours left of your day before you go to bed, or it's 8 a.m. and you have the whole day and you still got to go to work. Once you're in that mindset, it's really, really hard to get out of it. So that's what we're talking about today. And it's all seasons of life. Everybody walks through a different season at all times. Perspective. I'm really good at giving advice and I'm really bad at taking it, as I think most people are. But it's true. I wish that I could wake up and I could just be like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm going to get done. And I'm going to have a really happy attitude about it all day long. Anyone else? So lately, I've just been thinking a lot about perspective, and my golly, it's not because I have my life figured out, because I don't. I never will. And some days are just really freaking hard. And on those days that are really hard to think about, hey, I need to stop. I need to have a better outlook on life, but the little angel on your shoulder, let it pop through. Let it tell you, hey, it's not that big of a deal. Things aren't going our way. We're really in our feelings right now, and things can be better if we just decide to look at it different. I believe that perspective can change your whole day, your whole life, everything. The only thing it won't change is our circumstances. Unfortunately, it won't change the bills, the stress, the hard seasons, but it can change how we carry them. Some days feels really heavy. The house can feel loud without it actually feeling loud. Baseboards need to be cleaned, vacuumed. I mean, everything needs to be vacuumed. Laundry needs to be put away. Laundry needs to be started. The dogs need to be fed. They need water. I need to make sure that laundry's done. I need to make sure that the floor is clean. And I think that stay-at-home moms, we carry the stress and we try to get it all done before your significant other gets home. And my perspective of that is I do get to stay home, and it is a privilege. The reality is I am home to make sure that my home is a home, and I'm raising my daughter to someday be a God-fearing woman, a woman that is like the only person that can sit me down and say, look, this is not what we're doing, is God. She looks at that Bible and she knows, I am here to serve the Lord. I am a daughter of the King. That is my goal. My goal is to get her to heaven, not into professional sports. Granted, she will do sports. Is she going to be some amazing athlete? Maybe, but probably not. I have 2 left feet. I'm not good at sports. I'm good at yapping. Beyond the point, my goal here is to make my house a home and to make my daughter the best human being that I possibly can, period. There are going to be people that look up to her, and I need to make sure that I am raising a girl that'll someday be a woman that someone will be like, damn, I want to be just like her. And someday I hope that she looks at that person and says, here, let me help you. This is how I did it. This is how I can help you. I want her to be so much more than I ever was. So yeah, I am a stay-at-home mom. I clean the dishes. I do all of the things, but it's much bigger than that. Every mother, every father, your goal is to have children that are better than you, that succeed in better and different ways, and things that they can accomplish that you wish you could, but you never did. That is my goal. That is my main priority in life. Because if I wasn't a mom, I would be working right now. Let's be honest. The laundry, all of these tasks, that seem so loud in my head, they need to wait. Because what's not going to wait, it's my daughter. She's not going to wait for me to put the laundry away. A teaching moment here, but it's going to have to wait because mommy needs to put laundry away. No, that's not reality. The reality is I'm a stay-at-home mom, so these teaching moments can happen throughout the day, not so I can have a to-do list and keep checking them off. It's been really hard for me to reprogram my brain that way because I'm not going to lie, I'm a clean freak. I like to clean. It's therapeutic to me. But my 9 to 5 is Ren. It's not the house. If I can get it done, which I try to get it done before my husband gets home, then job well done. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not just a stay-at-home mom. Keyword being just. I'm not just a stay-at-home mom. I think to myself, would Jesus ever use the word just? No, especially when we're talking about raising children. I believe that he would not. I think that he would remind me that motherhood is holy work and that I've been entrusted with these little hands, that every bedtime prayer matters, every hug, every lesson about kindness, every time I teach my daughter to love others, to have compassion, to choose forgiveness, I'm planting seeds. I'm planting seeds for her future to become the best person possible. I'm helping raise those future adults who I pray, Lord, I pray she knows Jesus. I pray that she makes it to heaven and she brings a bunch of people with her because that right there, that is my goal. Like I said before, my goal is to raise a child that knows Jesus, that loves Jesus. Our goal is to bring as many people as we possibly can into heaven with us, and that is our eternal life. That is our Lord and Savior, and I am not scared to speak that Christ is my Lord and Savior, period. But shifting gears back a little bit, perspective. It changes everything. It changes your mood. It changes your life. It changes how you see things, do things, and how you see yourself. Years ago, well, it feels like years ago, but last year, at this time, I was still working a 9 to 5. Granted, I loved my job. I didn't love every single person I worked with, but I did love my job. But I was missing moments I couldn't get back. I would never get. I remember my grandmother looking at me and she was like, Breana, are you going to have more babies? And I was like, no, Mimi, I don't think I am. And she was like, honey, if you can stay home with her, then I think that's what you need to do because you're never going to get this back. These are the best moments of your life. I think that was God telling me, like, hey, I think that this season of your life, you need to take a step back because you have prayed and cried, and this is everything you've ever wanted, not your 9 to 5. Your 9 to 5, you can find a new 9 to 5. When the time is right, I will find a new job, and I will be very thankful that I did this because I don't want to miss the moments with Renly. This is it. I'm not having any more babies. I sat down with Duncan. It was very bittersweet. I sat there, I was talking to him about it. He looked at me and he was like, what about your job? Like, you love your job. And I started crying. And it makes me emotional right now because I did have an amazing job. I worked with amazing people, but it was just not my time, knowing that I was missing these huge things with my child that I prayed for over 6 years straight. Every single day, I pray to God that I want to be a mom. I want to have a baby. And he gave it to me. He listened to me, and I feel like I went through hell to get here. But he listened to me, and I was like, you need to see all of these things that you have in your life and enjoy it. Don't think about what's next. Enjoy and think about where you are right now. Sometimes I look at women building careers, they're climbing corporate ladders, they're earning promotions, and I wonder if me being at home is even doing enough. Was that a doggy? And then I stop myself and I'm like, Breana, you're not just a stay-at-home mom. I don't think that Jesus would be like, hey, you're just a stay-at-home mom. This is just the story and the part of your life that we're in right now. But this is the best part of my life. If I was an 80-year-old woman, where would my mind go? And my mind goes to me sitting in a chair, just like right now, holding my daughter and knowing that I'm not just a mom. I am her mom. I am raising her to be one hell of a woman. And that's holy work, if you ask me. Changing diapers isn't insignificant. Making breakfast every morning matters. Folding clothes matter. Realizing that you need to read a bedtime story, that matters. Kissing scraped knees. All of these things matter. Teaching your daughter or your son to say please and to say thank you, it matters. Showing them how to love people, I think that he would remind us that I'm not just raising a child, I'm raising someone's future spouse, someone's future friend, someone's future coworker, someone who will one day go into this world and impact the people all around them. I think that I have the privilege of helping shape who she is, and you have the privilege to shape who your children are. And if you're not a parent yet, or you're just an aunt, or you're just an uncle, or you're just whatever, you're not just anything. You play a very important role no matter what your role is. Do you agree with mommy? Penny, do you agree that mommy has an important role of raising you? Yeah. Everything that we do, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, whatever you are, you play an important role. Your role is important. Being a parent, we're doing hard work, no matter how you want to see it. It's not easy. If it was easy, then I don't know. I also want to say something that might be a little controversial. I don't think the way society is structured is built for mothers in mind. I don't think that mothers were meant to carry everything that we carry today. I had to work a full time job, to manage a house, to remember every doctor's appointment, to coordinate schedules, to make dinner, be emotionally available for everybody in the house, and somehow find the time to make it for yourself. I think that we need to stop acting like mothers are supposed to do it all and do it all effortlessly, because that's not reality. And whether you're a stay at home mom with your children or you work outside of the home, motherhood's hard. I know for me, when I was working my 9 to 5 while Rennie was I went back to work when Ren was 4 months old. It was overwhelming. All I thought about. I thought about everything that I needed to be doing at home while I was at work. And while I was at home, I had to be thinking about things that I was doing at work. Like, it was just, there was no balance at all. It's a full-time job. You go from your full-time job to being home as a full-time job. So to the moms who wake up every morning, get themselves ready, get their children ready, you go to work, you come home, and you can continue being everything for their family. I need you to know that you actually are a badass, because I sat there, like, when Duncan and I were talking, I was just like, this is hard. So I truly mean it. It's incredible. You do incredible work, and being so sincere. I don't know. I think that a lot of people are just like, oh, it's normal. Like, no, like, your wife is probably running on 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Rather, the baby's in the room with you, they're in their crib, you just don't sleep. After you become a mom, there's something in the chemicals of our brain. This is the best way I can describe it to you. Ever since Rennie was born, I have not slept. I don't sleep. Rennie is in her bed or in my arms. I don't sleep. I am in a state of co-sleep at all times. I hear the smallest sounds in this house. There's definitely changes I need to make for myself, but it's a lot. I think the strength it takes to carry the mental, emotional, and physical load of motherhood while balancing a career is incredible. And to my stay at home moms, spending their days pouring into their children and often without breaks, promotions, or recognition, you are also incredible. It takes a lot of work. Both things are incredible. I don't think one path is harder than the other. I think motherhood is extremely hard. Period. And I think that every mother deserves to give herself more grace. I think that we live in a world that measures worth by how productive you are, by your job titles, by paychecks, how busy you are. God doesn't measure our worth that way. And I think that we need to reset our minds and remember, hey, God isn't saying you're not worthy because you're not doing everything that you should be doing, that society and your brain is telling you need to do. I don't think that he measures that way. And I don't think he looks down on us and like, hey, you should be doing more. I think he's like, he sees every sacrifice. He sees the nights we spend awake with sick babies, the meals made, the prayers whispered over our children, the patience it all takes to show up every single day. Oops. Okay, to be fair and to be square, I am just now sitting back into this room. Rennie was having a fit, and it was just not my time to be filming this podcast. So I'm going to go into another section that I believe a lot of people need to hear about. I think a lot of people go through this. This is a very normal thing. Financial hardships. I personally have gone through a lot of financial hardships. I haven't always made the right decisions. In my younger years, it was always not the correct decision to make financially. And unfortunately, closer to my 30s now, I'm 29, I am paying for those really ridiculous decisions that I did make. So honestly, I feel like everybody has struggled financially. It doesn't just affect your bank account, it affects the stress levels, your sleep. So if you've ever struggled financially, it doesn't just affect the bank account, it affects you. It makes you feel extremely anxious, and it's something that you cannot change. If you're stressing about something, the best advice I can give you, one, if you can change it right now, then change it and stop stressing about it. But two, if you cannot change it right here, right now, why are you stressing it? We can't continue to stress the same thing over and over again, because at that point, you're just creating extra stress. You get a new job, you don't make enough money at that new job, or there's just things in life. You have to replace a window, your car needs new tires, or, anything. I feel like it makes you focus on everything you don't have and you forget about everything that you do have. We all had moments where we just, you sit there and you think, if I just had a little bit more money, things would be a lot easier. And yes, that probably would be true. Money can relieve stress. I've learned that peace doesn't automatically come from having more money. I hear little steps. I think sometimes we become so focused on where we're trying to go, and we just stop and we don't appreciate where we are. I can look at everything like that we want financially, or I can stop and realize, hey, God has already provided me so much. Like, we have a roof over our head, we have food on our table, we have food in our fridge, we have a family that loves one another. Like, our needs are met. And I think God has been faithful through every season we've already walked through. Some of the biggest lessons I've learned, they happened during the seasons where I didn't know how everything was going to work out. The seasons where I had to trust God when I couldn't see the full picture. I think financial stress can also make us feel like we're behind, especially when we're constantly seeing what everyone else has. But the truth is, like, we don't know their story. We don't know the debt people carry, the sacrifices they've made to get where they are, or the struggles that they don't talk about. We constantly are comparing someone else's financial situation to our own, and that doesn't really ever lead us to peace. I've had to remind myself that someone else's journey doesn't determine the value of mine. I've had to sit back and tell myself it doesn't mean I'm behind. It just means that our stories are different. For me, the season has been about learning that I can be grateful for what I have while still working towards what I want. Those two things can exist at the same time. I can trust God where I am today and still be praying for where I want to be tomorrow, because financial struggles don't last forever, and neither do the situations where we feel like we're stretched thin. But God's faithfulness reminds us the same through all of it. So maybe instead of us asking, why don't we have more, we can start asking, am I being a good steward of what I already have? I think it comes from recognizing that God has carried us through every hard season before this one, and trusting that He'll continue to do it. That has been one thing that I've always preached to people is, without going into a lot of detail, my mom had a lot of things going on in her life. And it was like one thing after another. And it was a lot. I could tell that she was just becoming really defeated, and she was just in a really hard spot. And I told her, I remember sitting with her on her couch, and I was like, Mom, I know everything like feels really heavy. One thing after another is crumbling. It's crashing down all at once. And I see that, but I want you to remember that God put you here for a reason. He made you sit right here right now with me, and knew that I was going to have this conversation with you and tell you that this part of your life, you are going through it for a reason. There are things happening in your life for a reason. And we have to constantly remember that there was things that happened 2 years ago that we were like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to pay this. I don't know, all these things. And now we don't even remember about it. The stress that we had 2-3 years ago is so minimal to where we are now. And my point is I was trying to get her to realize, like, I know this is a lot. There's a lot of stress put on you right now. And you're like, how am I going to do this all? I can't tell you how you're going to do it, but I can tell you that you are going to do it, because that's who you are. God has made you the woman that you are. And He put this strength in you that you don't see, that He sees, but you don't see it. When God carries us through all of these seasons of our life, He knows we're going to be going through these seasons. We don't. And if we did know about them, we would constantly be chasing tail. And what kind of life is that? Whenever there's a lot going on in someone's life, I tend to bring this exact thing up. I have 7 things piled up that I really need to do, or I really need to pay, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And somehow you do it, and that somehow is God. You could have extra money come in that you didn't know you were going to have. God is providing for you in ways that you cannot. We don't give Him enough credit. He will not fail us. He will give us strength. He knows what we need before we know we need it. And I think that's something a lot of people need to remember, is life isn't always going to go our way. He's going to put us through situations. He's going to put us through seasons. He's going to make us always put our life into perspective. And I think that's the point. I think the point is we are always learning, regardless if we're 20, we're 50, we're 60, we're 80. We're always learning something. regardless of your age. So remember that there is always a lot of stress in your life. You didn't know how you were going to do it, but you did it. You tend to forget about that stress that you had 4 years ago because now we have moved on 4 years later. Here we are, and now we're stressing about something. We're like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. But then again, 4 years ago, you also said the same thing and you were fine up until now. And that is because God will always find a way. He will always provide for us. He will always give us the strength. Truly believe that our God is one faithful God, and that is a God that will continue to move mountains for us, even when we believe that our mountains are crumbled, that our mountains can no longer be moved. Our mountains will always be moved because our God is a great, faithful, loving God. Another thing I want to talk about, long story short, it was not easy for Duncan and I to have a baby. It was lots of stress, lots of crying, lots of not understanding why this is happening. I felt like we were just like stuck. So I have PCOS, and I knew I had PCOS before I got married. I had bled for, well, I started getting a birth control shot in like 2017. And after I got that birth control shot, I just never stopped my period. And when I say I didn't stop my period from 2017 all the way to like 2019, I didn't stop. Like I was constantly spotting or like a full on menstrual cycle. I went to the doctors. I told them what was going on, and then I had an ultrasound, and it was an ultrasound of my uterus. And she basically looked at me and she was like, yeah, your uterus is textbook worthy to be studied. And she was like looking at the ultrasound with me, explaining everything. And she was like, so this is your uterus, and all of the specks that you see. She was like, think of like a cookie, and your cookie has chocolate chips on it. And all of those sacs or specks, however you want to look at it, those are cysts. And oh my God, there were so many. So I didn't do anything about the cysts. They were rupturing on their own. It was very painful, but this is like years later. I went to work, and this is going to sound really crazy, but I thought my uterus was falling out. And the reason I thought my uterus was falling out is because I could feel something, and I was like, what is actually going on right now? So I called my doctor's office, and I'm like, hey, something's not right. And she's like, okay, well, we can get you an appointment in a month. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Like, I need it now. I need to come in 2 days. Something is really wrong. And so I go in, and it ended up being a polyp that was making its way out. So they sent that off to the lab to make sure it was not cancerous. It's not. So she ordered an internal ultrasound. They found more. And I go to my doctor's office. I get a new doctor. I'm a new OB, and she's also a surgeon. And she's like, okay, this is what I think that you should do. 4 different surgeries in one setting. So it's not like I had to go back multiple times. I just went this one time. So I had a hysteroscopy, a DNC, a polypectomy of the uterus. So she removed 27 cysts, and she told my husband and my mom that she could not see my uterine line due to cysts. And at the time I was 25. When I had the ultrasound, and it showed another 4.5 centimeter endometrial polyp. And at the time, I was taking 2 birth control pills a day to decrease my bleeding, and it still wasn't helping. I stand by, if I didn't have that surgery, I don't think I'd have Rin right now. When the sperm and the egg meet, there was nothing for it to stick to. Like, there was no way for it to go onto my uterine wall and fertilize, if I'm explaining that correctly. I could be explaining that completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it is. So yeah, I was scared. I did have to sign a paper that said that if things didn't go according to plan and an emergency hysterectomy was the avenue she needed to take, I have to give consent. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, no, I am happy I had that done. I am thankful because now I have my child. She did tell me after the surgery, she recommends that we try to have a kid, or I need to get on a birth control because I needed to keep my uterine walls thin. So I did end up getting on a birth control for like 6 months, 7 months. And then I got my birth control taken out, and then I had Rennie. I had it for 7 months, and then I got pregnant with Ren 8 months later. And it sounds like everything just like fell into place, in which it did. And me saying it makes it sound like it was extremely easy, but it was not. It was not easy at all. It was definitely a very depressing journey to becoming a mom. It was hard. I vividly remember sitting in my bed looking at the pregnancy announcement. And as a woman, you sit there and you're like, okay, this is the one thing that my body is supposed to do. Why is it not doing it? And it's a very difficult thing. Like, it's easy for me to say it to you, but until you actually, like, you could be like, hey, no, like, I get that, like, that's really hard. But to actually experience it yourself, like, it's hard. Like that, I don't know. It's a very depressing thing. So if there's anybody listening to this and they're going through their journey to motherhood and they're experiencing some type of infertility, the best advice I could give you is just give yourself some grace. Give your body some time to decompress. You probably have put a lot of stress on yourself. You want something so bad, and I completely understand what you're saying. And I wish I could actually give you a hug right now because it's sad and it's really hard. I will pray for every single person that I know struggling with infertility. And there was a pregnancy announcement. This is a kind of, I mean, it's not off topic, but there's somebody that I know. She struggled with infertility as well, and she announced her baby. And at the very bottom of it, I'm about to find it. It made me cry. Okay, yeah, here it is. So it says, "To those who are still waiting for your miracle, I am praying for you daily. I don't know why we're getting ours and you're not getting yours. I know it isn't fair and it doesn't make sense. Even in the midst of our joy, my heart breaks for you, but I know God is good and He is still working miracles. Stay strong, sister." It is so hard for me to read that. I sat there and I read that pregnancy announcement for probably an hour. And I ended up sending her a message because I was like, she understands. Like when you have gone through a battle to become a mom and seeing a pregnancy announcement, it's really hard to sit there and watch somebody receive something that you want so desperately. And I think for her to add that into her pregnancy announcement was just like, this woman is so deserving of a child. Like it's insane. She's an amazing woman inside and out, an amazing mother, amazing wife. She inspires a lot of people. So if you know who you are, I think really highly of you, and I think that you are absolutely amazing. And when you made that post, I think that you actually changed something in me. So thank you for that. If you have a friend out there that's struggling, don't make them feel like anything's wrong with them because there's nothing wrong with them. God created them to be who they are for a reason. I think it's hard for someone on the outside in looking at your friend because you kind of like are tiptoeing, like, what do I say? Do I not say this? Like, I don't want to make you feel weird. And I just want you to know when you do feel like that, if you're thinking it, your friend is too. So just treat them like normal. When you see a pregnancy announcement and you're struggling with your journey to becoming a mom, it is very difficult to have excitement. I mean, you are excited, but you just have a lot of jealousy in a way. And I hate using the word jealousy because you just want it to be you. That's the best way to describe it, is you just want to be a mom so bad. One of the biggest things that changed my perspective on life was my journey to become a mom. Negative test after negative test. We had doctor's appointments, lots of questions and disappointment. I was trying to stay extremely hopeful the entire time while trying to protect my heart because I didn't think that I was going to become a mom. It's hard to explain the grief of mourning something, that you want, but you don't have it. It hasn't happened yet. So, like, the grief of wondering if you'll ever become a mom, of watching other people announce pregnancies while you're quietly praying for your own miracle. I spent a lot of time asking God why. Why was this happening to me? And why did it seem so easy for everybody else? Why was my motherhood journey the one thing that I wanted so badly, but it was so difficult to achieve? Like, I did not understand that at all. And I wish I could tell you I handled it perfectly, but I didn't. I questioned God. I cried and I felt angry. I felt jealous, and a lot of the times I felt extremely hopeless. I did learn a lot that God can handle our questions. He isn't intimidated by our disappointment, and even in the waiting, He was still there. And looking back now, I can honestly say that infertility changed me because becoming a mom wasn't something I ever took for granted. It taught me compassion for people who are walking through these battles. It taught me patience. It taught me to have compassion for people walking through unseen battles. It taught me patience. It taught me that God's timing looks different than our own. And it taught me that sometimes faith isn't having all the answers. Sometimes faith is waking up every day and continuing to trust God. And you have to trust Him even when you don't understand what He's doing. There were so many moments where I couldn't see the big picture, where I felt like there was this moment I was sitting in my bed and I just felt like I was sinking. It's all I thought about. It's all I wanted. But now when I look at Ren, I see that I'm a mess.
But now when I look at my daughter, I see evidence that God was working when I couldn't see it. And I know that not everyone listening gets the ending they prayed for. I know some people are still in the waiting. They're still grieving, still hoping. And I don't want to minimize that pain because infertility is hard. The waiting is hard. The unanswered prayers are hard. But I also know that God remains faithful, even in the seasons where we don't understand Him. If you're walking through infertility right now, I hope you know this. Your worth is not found in your ability to become a mother. Your worth is not found in your ability to become a mother. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. Oh my God. You are deeply loved by a God who sees you. A God who sees every tear you've cried and every prayer you've whispered. For me, infertility changed the way I looked at motherhood. Because now, even on exhausting days, I'm reminded that this was once the prayer I cried over. This was the dream I thought might never happen. And while motherhood isn't, oh my God. And while motherhood isn't always easy, I don't ever want to lose sight of the fact that this is a gift. Infertility taught me that two things can be true at the same time. I can be exhausted and grateful, overwhelmed and thankful, struggling and blessed. So, I'm a mess. So, I'm going to wrap up today's episode, but I want to remind you that perspective doesn't mean pretending life is perfect. It doesn't mean ignoring grief, it doesn't mean minimizing hard seasons, and it doesn't mean forcing gratitude when you're hurting. It simply means choosing what lens you're going to look through. Will you focus only on what you lack, or will you also recognize what you've been given? Will you let fear determine your next step, or will you choose faith? I firsthand know that life doesn't always go according to plan. I've experienced seasons of waiting, seasons of financial stress, seasons of loneliness, seasons where I questioned whether I was enough. And honestly, I'm sure there's going to be more seasons to come. I've also learned that God has been faithful through every single one of them. Every season I thought would break me taught me something. Every unanswered prayer shaped me, every hardship strengthened me, and every blessing reminded me that God was there all along. So if you're listening to this today and you're struggling, I want to encourage you to be gentle with yourself. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to have everything done perfectly. You do not have to become someone else to be worthy of the life that you've been given. Maybe today, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, God, what are you teaching me through this? There's so many different ways that you can look at things, so I really encourage you to try to do that. Maybe instead of comparing your life to someone else, thank God for the story He's writing for you. And maybe instead of focusing on all the ways you think you're falling short, remember that God's grace covers all the places where you feel inadequate. Because maybe the life you're living right now is the life you once prayed for. The child exhausting you today may be the child that you begged God for. The marriage you're working on may be the relationship you once dreamed of having. The home that feels too small may have once felt impossible to attain. The ordinary moments we rush through today often becomes the moments we miss tomorrow. So don't waste your life away. Don't miss today's blessings because you're only focused on tomorrow's goals. And do not underestimate the power of changing the way you see your life, the one you have been given. And don't underestimate the power of changing the way that you see the life you've been given. Because sometimes the most beautiful transformations don't happen when our circumstances do. They happen when we do. So, honestly, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know this episode was a lot. I hope this episode encouraged you to see yourself with more grace, your circumstances with more hope, and your life through the eyes of a God who loves you deeply. Until next time, remember this. Maybe you don't need a different life. Maybe you just need a different lens.